Happy Monday. We are here October 9th. Mandy, how are we doing? The jazz hands are in effect. What's up? What's up?
The jazz hands are here, Amani. I want to ask you a question before we talk about our various weekends. Do
Yes.
you, coming out of COVID, speaking of jazz hands, do you still shake hand? Have you returned to shaking hands? Are you fist bumping? Are you elbow? What's your mode of entry point to meeting new people right now?
Handshakes. I'm cool. Yeah,
Oh,
handshakes.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
easy.
How about
Fun.
you?
I'm jazz hands.
Okay.
I'll shake a hand every now and again. I don't mind, and I believe in a good handshake is a web to web pump pump, like a real look in
Okay.
the eye. I've got a thing about that. But most of the time I'm doing jazz hands. I'm trying to
All right.
keep true to the spirit fingers.
Okay. Yes, yes, that's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. It was really awesome, but I'm coming off of a really busy week and I did 2. It was really interesting. I do these virtual group coaching sessions all week long, but it is very rare that I have 2 in the same week that are very similar to each other, and I'm noticing a little trend here. So I had 2 coaching sessions virtually last week where we were prepping people for trade shows.
Mm,
And so we were prepping one group, we were prepping, it was a group of software engineers who were lovely, global group, very lovely, super smart, really interesting, very fun. And we were prepping them on how to have compelling conversations like what happens after you scan the badge? What
mhm,
happens after you give the swag? Like
mm.
what's
Okay.
next? How do you
Mhm.
transition from can I tell you a little bit more about my product or how do you transition to can I make an appointment? So that was one coaching session, and then the other one was just preparing. It's a hospitality company preparing to go to IMEX, as we know. IMEX is our big industry conference coming up in a couple of weeks or next week, actually.
Right, yeah.
And so they were talking about all the things they're doing heading into it. So it was coaching them on what are you going to bring? What activation are you going to have? Strategically, who do you want to meet with? What conversations are you going to have? What are you going to do leading up to people to tell them what booth you're at? So,
Oh,
I have these conversations all the time. I just never do group coaching on it. And it was fun. It was super
nice.
fun. Yeah, I love that.
What would be like your top tip or advice for people who are like going to a show like IMAX to really attract attention and be memorable?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, if you're just going to the if you're not in a booth, if you're just somebody attending, I mean, I think you can peacock a little bit, wear some red shoes, wear something that sticks out that people remember you, right? There's one person that always wears orange.
Mhm.
I think he represents the Netherlands. And so
Yeah,
everybody
makes sense.
always remembers him, right? But I think just really concentrating on IMAX is a monster. And I think the people that stick out at a show like that are the people that are really connected and engaged with just you. So if you're having a conversation with somebody, don't look away and like wave at
Yeah.
everybody coming past. Just really be connected for that 2 minutes that you're talking to somebody because it may be the first and last time you talk to them the whole week that you're there. So I think when it comes to a big show like that, the way to stick out is to, not let the monster get the best of you and just really connect, enjoy those one-on-one experiences.
Good. So for
Yeah.
my weekend, I would say the
Yeah.
highlight of my weekend, because I did a little travel on the back end, is that I had dinner with one of our upcoming guests, Melissa Majors, who was in town speaking at Cal Poly Pomona. So we went out to dinner on
Awesome.
Friday evening, had an amazing conversation at a great restaurant. That was my highlight.
Ooh, what'd you have at the restaurant?
Ooh, it was a Cuban restaurant, so I had my maduros, which is like fried plantains, and then there was
Mm,
a steak dish there. We had a little cake and some chicken empanadas to start. Oh, it was good. It was good.
I
Mm.
love that. Did you do a
Yeah.
digestion walk after?
Well, it was an hour and 5-minute drive after I finished,
Oh,
so
you
it
digestion drove?
yeah, I just did drill, so yeah. You're
I love that. Okay,
um,
really quick before we go to our guest, so last week we talked, you were prepping for the Twitch Awards show.
yes.
I think the audience is the people listening, the people here
People
today,
wanna
I
know.
think they're interested. So how did it go? What were your highs and lows of your Twitch Awards show last week?
I mean, it was pretty much all highs. The videos looked great. We finished in like a great time, 2 hours and 45 minutes. There were some really nice acceptance speeches. We had some tributes that were done throughout the program for people that had passed away. It just was really
Oh,
well done. It was clean. it just made me so, so happy. So it just went great. Thank you for remembering and for asking too.
Mm.
And I'm just really proud of the team we had working on it and the overall product. And, I get to take kind of like a week off to rest because it was a lot of work. But I'm so happy because this year is just such different emotions compared to last year. And it's just better. So I was just so happy. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, congratulations. You deserve that. You put so much into that, Amani. Give
Yeah.
yourself a round of
Oh, we get
applause.
some
I don't
applause.
have the
Yes,
button.
yes.
You've got the
You have
button.
the button. There's the button.
Woo, Marty!
All right. So who do we get the pleasure of talking to and learn? I got some questions here. I got a list. I'm ready. Who are we talking to today, Mandy?
Well, this person is the epitome of a creator. Her creativity, like she has creativity coursing through her veins, like more than any of us. Her creativity is aspirational, I would say. She's a designer. She is a photographer. She is a business owner. She's an animal lover. She's an
Mm,
expert in the real estate and hospitality graphic design space. And of course, she interior designed her own home that she and her husband built together. So we've got a lot to talk about with design and creativity. So I want to bring up Angela Johnson to the
yes. So here you are,
stage.
Angela. We'll give you some applause coming to the stage.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
Welcome, Angela.
That was quite an introduction, I have to say. That was pretty special.
You are
We do
special.
that for all our people here, and we just kind of are happy that you're here with us. My
Thank
first
you.
question for you is that because you're such a talented creator, I'm curious, how do you keep yourself and like recharge your battery and keep yourself at your creative peak? Because you're so
Mm.
creative, so sometimes your battery can run low.
That's really true. It's difficult, actually. I like to look at other people creating, honestly. I mean, going to other spaces, like viewing artwork, going to museums, even just artists that I follow on social media, just kind of scrolling through all the beautiful things that other people are making. I read a ton. I love to read, and that kind of just takes me out of my own head and my own sort of stuckness sometimes. I'm kind of constantly doing that, and just walking and being outdoors, exercising a ton. Um, I think I tend to get bogged down in my own brain a little bit, so exercising definitely tends to sort of clear out the cobwebs, I would say, for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said reading. We love to
Yeah,
read. You can see
yeah.
behind me, I have a really big bookcase that's behind me. Do you primarily do fiction, nonfiction? What's your kind of guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh, I read just kind of constantly. I'm a huge reader. I'm in a book club that I've been in for probably 13 years or so now. So I read a book a month for that, and then another usually in between that. I'm reading. Mostly, I would say I read fiction novels. I'll read something usually kind of beefy for book club, and then I love to read what my candy books, I call
Yeah,
them, with
yeah.
a
We love some good
thriller.
mind candy.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
my mystery and thriller books, those are the ones that I kind of sneak in between the beefier books that are a little bit more weighty and thought provoking. So
I
yeah.
like. Okay, good, good. Well, we'll get some book recommendations for you later
Okay,
on in the
I got
show.
you.
But I'll toss it over to Mandy to figure out, Mandy, what shall we discuss now?
Well, I want to go to the Wayback Machine for a second. So,
Mm,
Okay, let's
you've
go.
been running your own business for some time now, and we'll get to what
Mhm,
that looks like now. But
mhm,
this show we have entrepreneurs and then sometimes we have intrapreneurs, right? Like we
mhm,
work within a corporation, but you've got this entrepreneurial mindset. So
mhm.
I want to go to the Wayback Machine. You've got a super fancy marketing job at a super fancy commercial real estate company. And then you decide, I'm over this. I want to start my own business. Like,
Mhm,
what were you doing at that real estate company
mhm.
first? And what made you cross over to the dark side of entrepreneurship, like with us?
Interesting. I never really dreamed of having my own business or doing my own thing, being an entrepreneur. That was never something that, even though I grew up with my dad has had his own business, his pretty much his whole career. But it was just never something that for me I had this drive to do. And I sort of stumbled my way into real estate, and over the course of my career, I kept kind of landing in management positions, I say, because they weren't things that I wasn't striving also to be a manager. I wanted to be creative, I wanted to do design work, and I just sort of kept ending up in these positions of management. And because there's certain things about that that I'm good at, but I wouldn't say that it's a love for me. And I ended up in a position where I was just stressed all the time. I felt like
Mm.
there was a higher fire hose in my face every day of just
Mm.
incoming stuff to deal with. And it was burning me out. And I didn't really know where to go, but I knew that if I kept doing that job and I kept doing it well, I was going to end up doing more of the things that I didn't like. I was I was going to be doing less and less creating, and I was going to be doing more and more managing of bigger departments and bigger markets and more HR and more sort of corporate meetings and planning, which I don't mind some of that, but it isn't really where my heart was. And so I was presented with an opportunity through my now husband. It was kind
Mm.
of a fluke, and my husband now, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, "I'm going to the East Coast, and any chance you want to go with me for 6 months while I go build something?" And it was just kind of an aha moment for me that I just said, "You know what? I'm ready to just do something totally different. I have no idea what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to quit what I'm doing. I'm going to go and live in the forest in upstate New York for a little while and kind of contemplate that." And at that time, then it was sort of the perfect segue to say, like, I'm going to just try this new thing on my own. And I don't know how
Mm.
it's going to go. I could fall flat on my face, but I already don't have a job. So there's nothing to lose. I might as well give this a shot. And I can always go back and get a job. And I haven't gone back ever since.
Ah, I love that. The forest can change people. It can
It
change
really
people.
did, it really did. The
Do you
cold of
rem
the forest.
Do you remember that first project? You don't have to share any client names. I know there's confidentiality and
Mhm.
stuff involved, but, like,
Right, right.
do you remember what the dynamics of that first project were?
That's a good question. I mean, I did a little dabbling while I was back there. I did a little, like a couple little logos and some things like that. And I really honestly thought that my business plan coming out of that hiatus time was that the majority of my work I thought was going to come from commercial real estate photography. And I thought the design work, I thought, there's a ton of designers out there, and that's probably not going to be my niche. Everybody has designers they like to work with, and I just wasn't really confident enough in my own skill set and what I had to bring to the table at that point. And so I had this whole plan of what I thought the business was going to be, and the market told me otherwise, and
Mm.
I listened to it. And so I started pretty quickly getting these bigger design projects, and it just was sort of off and running. So I don't remember the specific project, but I do remember that time pretty clearly and what that felt like when
I
the
love
work
that,
started
and
coming in.
I love that. Good
Now,
story.
if you could
Yeah.
go back, because it's been almost
Mhm.
9 years now, so if you could go back
Yeah.
to the beginning and start over again,
Mm.
would you do anything
Mhm.
differently?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I would, honestly. Um, I like where I've ended up. Like where I landed, and I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was that you can have a plan and you can have goals, and all of that is fantastic, and you should. And I'm very goal oriented. I'm task oriented. I like to have something in front of me and knock it out. But at the same time, you have to be open to where the path's in front of you, what's being shown to you, and
Mm,
I think that's the one thing I was really happy. I kind of have gone where the path has shown me that, what's being presented to me. And I've had opportunities and I've thought through like expanding the business and going bigger. And I'm actually just really happy doing my own thing at the level that I'm doing it at. And so I don't really have any regrets.
okay, okay. You mentioned logos,
I
and
know
that's
it's not
kind of
that
what
fun.
you've done. That's
That's a
okay,
great
that's
answer.
valid.
It's an
It's
honest
valid. Yeah,
answer. I mean,
It
love it.
yeah,
is,
it's
Yeah,
it's
good.
very
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Anthony Graziano's in the chat. He said, "Go, Angela, go." So very good
Oh,
there.
thank you, Anthony Graziano.
Scoot. So, question is, logos. In your opinion, in today's day and age, what makes like a
Mm.
good
Ooh, a good logo. Well, I tend to go towards simpler is better. I think I think we're all bombarded with a million images and advertisements and stimulus kind of constantly. And I think the quicker that somebody can get a snapshot of you and a picture in their head that they can actually remember, I think that's I think that's important. And it can be a lot of different, I wouldn't say there's one style that has to make that happen, but being clear, being somewhat simple, and not trying to put too many things into a logo is really, really important, and always what I'm trying to lead people to do is we don't have to get all the things into the logo. It doesn't
Mm.
have to have a full description of your business. It doesn't have to have, you know, let's keep it simple and let's make it memorable and clean so that it looks good across tons of different medium. Because right now, especially, you're getting like instants of people's attention. You're not getting 15 minutes where people are looking through things. So
You're not, yeah. Um, I guess see, I want to hop around on different topics. Man, is it
okay,
okay if
let's
I
hop.
hop around to a different topic?
Amani, you do you, boo. I'm with you on the ride. I'll jump in, I'll jump out, you hop around.
Okay.
Let's be
I,
active. Let's be active on this
okay,
interview.
let's hop around. We're gonna hop around like Frogger,
Yeah.
like
Okay,
Frogger.
Yeah.
okay.
Frogger it.
I understand like you have a phenomenal eye for like interior design, like decorating, designing spaces. I want to talk to you about office space and
Oh,
like what are your thoughts on like designing this like a great office space? And I'm gonna be a little selfish here because in my office, like to my left there's a monitor, ahead of me is the
mhm,
camera, in front of me is the monitor, and I have another monitor. So like
mhm,
all across, all along a wall would be like all monitors and a desk in the middle. But I'm trying to
mm,
picture for my new office, what
mhm.
could be some things I should consider when designing the space and making it as productive, but also as relaxing as possible.
Can you get some plants in there? I mean,
Oh,
if you have all the, I don't know,
okay.
if you got all these like really hard things, right? You have all these hard monitors and cameras and lights and all these, and you need it. And I have the same situation where I'm not using it today, but I have a giant monitor that I
Mhm.
use, and then I have my laptop set up next to it, and so it's quite the contraption. But I
Right.
don't know if you could hang some plants around it, maybe from the ceiling, some baskets and things like that. It might soften it a little bit and make it a little bit less sort of like techie and industrial feeling, and a nice wall color too. I'm a big fan of wall color. As you can see, I've got some wall color going on back here, and that's sort of personal preference. But I think that makes it homier and more comfortable. Anything that you can do to soften and sort of counterbalance that. That's what I think.
I love orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. So
Ooh. Well,
Ooh.
don't be afraid. I mean, you can also, you don't have to go a full room in orange, You can make a really cool, you can do a stripe, you can do a diagonal stripe on one wall.
oh,
You can put like, you can divide spaces up and use shades of orange, like really soft, like tans, and then throw like a pop of orange in there in like a graphic, and you just make graphic out of tape. It's so easy. You just tape it off, you paint it in, easy peasy.
okay. And then follow up to that, wait, what are your thoughts on like furniture in an office that maybe people we don't consider, but we should consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think that depends on if you like hanging out in your office.
Mhm,
Some people really want their office to just be their office where they're doing work, and then they want to get the heck out of there. And
mhm.
so,
That's
I
me.
mean,
That's how I am. Yeah.
you don't really need furniture in there because you don't want to hang out in there. And I don't know that if you put furniture in there, it's going to really change the way you feel about it.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think furniture can definitely make it feel softer and more homey and more relaxing. And I can also like just add to the style of it. I think one mistake that we make is not styling our office so that it feels like a space we want to be in. We leave it as a workspace, and there's so many simple things you can do to make it reflect you. Whether it's a nice lamp
Hmm.
or a rug, or it doesn't have to be a full couch and chair and big situation, but you can put small things in there like that that'll really personalize it and make you want to maybe spend more time in it.
Interesting. You've got my mind thinking. Thank you. You have,
Oh, good.
I'm gonna let Manny go next, but I might have some
It's
follow-ups, but
the
you got me thinking. I'm
it's the little
ruminating in a good
things.
way. Yeah.
It's the little things. It's the little things.
Little
Okay,
things.
I'm gonna frogger around too. I'm
Ooh,
gonna
okay,
take
we're
a page out
hopping,
of Amani's
frogging.
book. Okay.
Okay.
So Amani and I have both over the years, we have hired so many marketing people, graphic design
Mm,
people, for different things, mostly in the hospitality space, right?
Mhm.
And in my experience, they're very focused on just the design. They're not focused on the full project. They're not focused
Mhm.
on spelling or grammar. And I don't know if they should be focused on spelling or grammar, but just I know it's just mostly design and a lot of content can be missed. Some errors can be missed. So, can you share your philosophy about the responsibility of a designer to complete a project holistically? Like not
Mhm.
just about like where the logo is on
Mhm.
the page or what the page
Yeah.
numbers are, but just like holistically. Because I think one time you told me an example that it like blew my mind where you were working on a commercial development space. It was a bunch of developers and they were working on a new building. And there was a specific example about something about like you noticed that the way they had calculated the price per square foot was missed. And I remember being like, I've never worked with a designer that would ever do that ever. So I'm just curious, like, what is your overall responsibility or your philosophy about the responsibility holistically to a project and not just to
Mhm.
design?
Hmm. There's so many thoughts that came into my mind when you were asking that
Ooh,
question.
say them all.
So
Say them all.
I'm yeah, I'm gonna try to like kind of be logical and as I go through. I mean, part of it comes down to efficiency, right? And that's just the basic client wants the project done as fast as possible, always. That's just a universal truth in design. And for me, I mean, the quicker I can get it done, I can get on to another project. And it takes time for me. Every single time somebody comes back with a change or an edit, that takes time, right? You have to sit down, you have to open the file, you have to set up, even if it's just changing one word, right? So if I notice something that is really obvious, it saves everybody time. It saves me time. I don't wanna wait for the client to notice that error and then come back to me, and then I have to sit down at the computer and open the file again and save a new PDF that takes however long, and then send another email with another draft, and then they have to open it, and they have to read it, and they have to evaluate. It's it's just inefficient, and it doesn't make any sense. As far as, noticing details and things, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a line that you have to be careful of because a lot of thought goes into content many times that people are providing you. And so you don't want to make assumptions that you know necessarily better than them and that,
Mhm.
they haven't done something intentional and you can be insulting or um, like make assumptions that you shouldn't. But also, if you've been working on something a long time and you have a strong feeling and you know that something looks off, I mean, I think it takes less time to just shoot a quick email and check. I'll
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I've noticed this. I have typed 8 billion price per square foot, and I know where that price is calculated from, and I know that we just changed the listing price, and so I know the price per square foot is going to change, and you didn't change it. So it can't, I know in my heart it can't be right, but I'm not going to
Mhm.
just recalculate it and put that information in there. I'm going to send a note to the client and just say, hey, I noticed this. I could be wrong, but let me know if you'd like me to make this change. And 9 times out of 10, it's something that they're grateful that it was pointed out. And it saves
Yeah.
everybody time. It doesn't just save them time, saves me time.
Mhm.
So I think it just makes sense. And then it's offering a service and it's being attentive. And um, the other thing that popped in my head is, I mean, that's specific maybe to what I do in real estate. But as far as copy goes, a lot of people are very, thoughtful about their copy. But it's very easy to give somebody an instruction that says, insert this here, and you've missed changing the tense of the verb, or you have whatever.
Mhm.
And I think some designers feel like they don't want to be irresponsible. And so they just take very literally what has been given to them. Like, you told me to take this and put it here. That's what I'm going to do because then I'm not responsible if it's wrong.
Mhm.
But I just don't think that's doing anybody a service. And I have good enough grammar that I can read it and I can say, like, oh, they didn't mean to put two thes in that sentence insertion, or I know they forgot to change that verb tense because we're rewriting it. And it just doesn't take any effort, I think, any extra effort to pay attention to those details. And for
Mm.
me, it's been only a positive response. I've never had a negative response to that from a client.
So I
Yeah.
gotta say hello to Jennifer Truex in the chat. Hello, Cherry G in
Aw,
the
hey,
chat. So
Jenny. Hey,
Yes,
Jerry.
continue. Mandy, what's
Welcome.
up? Yeah.
Well, one more follow-up question to that. So, like, the
Mhm,
devil is in the details,
mhm,
and it's not just the design details. And what I
mhm,
loved about that, what I think is so powerful and what you said is you ultimately are helping clients either save money or make more money by just adding just a little extra level of service there. I think that's really powerful. So, like for example, like last week, I did a site inspection at the Town and Country here in San Diego. They did a huge renovation, more than $100 million renovation. Their brochure was actually really good, and I
mhm.
hate hotel brochures. I look at them all day, every day. The square footages, they're always wrong. They never match. There's all these different fonts. They suck, right? So, how is the design work that you do for commercial? But
Mhm,
I will say, Town and Country was
mhm.
really good. But how is the design work that you do for commercial real estate similar to a hotel, a brand new hotel opening or a hotel renovating or something like for because
Mhm,
we have a lot of hotel people in the audience.
mhm,
So if they were to be renovating or launching a new hotel, like how is what you do with
mhm.
commercial real estate similar in that sense for hospitality?
I think my impression, and when I was a marketing manager, I kind of touched on all the different uh, parts and pieces of commercial real estate, right? So I was doing multifamily and I'm doing office, and I'm doing industrial and a little hotel and leasing, all the different parts pieces. And there's a lot of similarities that go kind of across the board. And specifically, what I've been doing the last, I don't know, 8 years on my own is I've gotten really into doing institutional level office sales. So if you have a big tower in downtown Los Angeles and there's a big investment group that's going to sell that property, they want a beautiful book to represent that property to go out to market. Um, and so I'm creating that book. Um, those particular level of properties want to be individually branded. They want to be presented as something special and unique. Sometimes they already have some recent branding in place and we're taking that and we're playing off of it and we're really, highlighting what they've done. Other times it's an older building and we're trying to show the possibility of what could be done. And so we're coming up with branding for it. We're creating a new logo and we're creating a new color scheme and we're using creative photography and overlays and things like that to renderings to show what the property could become. And so I think that's, similar. Most hotels want to be branded and want to be unique and want to be individual. And yet some of them are constrained by corporate entities or investment groups and needing to be part of a bigger brand, but also be unique and individual and special on their own. And so I think understanding those things, I think that crosses over in all those sort of bigger property lines. It's different than a smaller little industrial building in an office park somewhere. I would say it's more closely related to these like big special commercial properties.
Yeah, everybody wants to be their own person, whether it's a building or a
Yes.
human. Yeah, love that.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
But there's also a lot of times you're working within a corporate constraint and
Yeah.
understanding that. And I think that's really, really important. And that's probably one of the biggest value sort of differentiators that I've figured out is that I can speak design and I can speak business. And I understand that while we want something to be as beautiful and creative and perfect and special as possible, we're also at the end of the day trying to sell something, trying to communicate something, and that can't get lost in the effort to make something just beautiful and cool and special because I want to make fun designs.
Mm.
There's still maybe a whole group of corporate people that we have to please or keep in the loop, and there's a lot of things in which we have to be thoughtful about in merging those two worlds and communicating them.
Now,
Love that. Love that. Well
how
said.
has your career in commercial real estate helped your
Mhm.
design business?
Interesting. Gosh, I mean, it really, so many ways. Um, the speed at which I work. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
I really working in that business, specifically in the management position, it was you just hit the bricks running every single day, and you are behind before you even start. And there's a million people waiting for a million things, and everybody's thing is most important.
Yeah.
and learning how to juggle that and those expectations, how to um, not overpromise and how to deliver really what you can actually achieve and be realistic and communicate really thoughtfully about, I understand this is what you want, this is what I can give you, can you live with that? Okay, let's go forward. Being
Okay.
really plain and learning how to speak that way and how to deal with people in business much more than the design community, which there's a whole different language in the design community, and there's a whole different way of sort of existing. And um, you have to really be able to merge the two. And I think
Mhm.
that commercial real estate is not necessarily known as a creative industry. So learning how to sort of like wedge that
Mhm.
creativity in there without losing sight of the sales,
Yeah.
that was an incredibly valuable experience. Not to listen, just sitting next to really high-end salespeople, listening to them negotiate for years and years and years. As a person who has no desire to ever sell anything or be in sales or have anything to do with that, it kind of just like all seeped into my brain via osmosis by listening to all these people creating deals every single day and
Mm.
learning how that goes. So it gave me a lot.
Okay. And then another question would be like, who are some designers that you like look up to? Who are like your designer, like
Oh my
mentors you really love?
gosh.
You can give top five if you like.
That's
Give
a
me the
tough
top
one.
five.
Yeah. I don't, I mean, that's a tough question. I'm to think of like names off the top of my head. But I will tell you, I can point to this, see this huge book back here. This is this huge book of logo modernism. It's like,
Okay.
it's a Bible, if you
Okay.
will, of creativity. I'll pull out for you. I think
Wow.
this is pretty, they're pretty fun. This is just a huge book filled with inspiration.
It's a
So
big book.
it's just filled and filled and filled with ideas over the years.
Okay.
I get a ton of inspiration from it. And when I'm stuck and I don't know where to go, sometimes I just wander through places like the, Adobe Creative Spaces or Behance Network back in the old days, or like I said, the social media forums and stuff like that, um, to get those inspirations from those other artists. But I haven't had a lot of design mentors, like actually
Um,
not since I was a true, like fresh out of college, worked with an illustrator for a little
yeah.
while named Beverly Burge, and she was a lovely woman, but that was a long, long, long time ago.
Because the name like Debbie Millman comes to mind, and
Hmm.
she's like my interview mentor because she does a phenomenal job
Hmm.
interviewing people, and her podcast is called Design Matters. It's been around for almost 20 years now,
Hmm.
and she's phenomenal. It's like she does a great job, and I know that I want to say it's Milton Glaser, who's like the one of the people who taught her, who's like a legend in the industry. And
Hmm.
so I always love to talk to people such as yourself who are doing really well in the design space and find out, well, who are like your mentors? Because there's some
Hmm.
people out there with some amazing eyes and can put that into a logo or a design that's just mind blowing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really, I have been more in I got my start in the printing industry.
Hmm.
I worked in a service bureau. I worked at a company that produced books for, brokers on the East Coast. And then I ended up in commercial real estate. And so I've never worked in like a traditional agency or design firm where I could just spend time with a bunch of like senior level designers and get like a great mentor. So I feel like I've kind of had to just make my own way in the space
Yeah.
and figure it out as I
Mhm.
go, post college, post, like degree type stuff.
I
Right.
love it. Yeah. I want to step away from the creative thing for a second, if I
Oh,
can,
okay.
if I can Frogger in a different way.
Robert, let's do it. Let's
Okay.
do it.
Frogger.
Frogger.
And we should start doing that. We should just start yelling Frogger when we're going to do something different. I want to talk about athleticism because you
Oh.
were a college athlete. And I think as a grown woman, you're still pretty athletic. So can you talk a little bit about your college athletic career and
Okay.
what takeaways did you get from being in college athletics that you use in your professional life?
Oh, goodness. Um, Well, college athletics, that was, boy, that was a time. I played
Well, first,
softball.
yeah, I was gonna say, first, tell everybody what you did, what position you
Yeah.
played, yeah, where you went,
I
where you go, where'd you
Yeah,
go?
I ended up playing in Tennessee. I went and I played for the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga for a couple years, and then I went to Belmont University and finished up there. And I was mostly an infielder. I bopped around, played, did a couple other things. High school, I was a shortstop and a pitcher, and in college, I ended up my last few years, I landed at second base, and that was where I pretty much stayed and just loved it. I fell in love with it as a kid and just kind of continued on my whole life. I remember seeing some college athletes play as a kid, and it just became my dream. As soon as I saw the girls at Cal State Northridge playing, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be that, which is a really cool goal. Except it really only takes you through college, so you have to figure out something else to do. Hence the graphic design. Um, I mean, the experience of being a college athlete is so intense, and it's really regimented, and um, you don't own a lot of your own time or your own
Mhm.
life. You're sort of at the whims of coaches and schedules, and it's quite intense. But I mean, I really learned how to make the most of little bits of time here and there. I learned, how to be creative, frankly, when you're not feeling creative at all. Because when
Mm.
you're exhausted and you're coming out of a van that you've been squished in with nine other girls, you're driving
Yeah.
back to Florida and you arrive at 3 in the morning and you have an 8 a.m. drawing class that you have to then get out of said van and draw. You're totally exhausted and you're like, I can't possibly draw something right now. um, you learn to just sort of force yourself through it. And those are valuable skills. And it's not, you don't always want to be creating in those circumstances, but just to know that you can
Yeah.
do it is pretty powerful and a good lesson. And of course, I think learning to lead for me, leading by example and leading by hard work and wanting to help and sort of mentor. I think those were the things that I always took with me into like my management positions and wanting to work with younger designers and sort of up and coming people that were in departments that I worked with. And I wanted to see them succeed because I love the success of the team. And it's
Mm.
about all of us really like taking this on. I worked in a huge company and a small creative department. And so if one person's drowning, we're all drowning.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're in this together and we have to, no matter what level you're at, if you're entry level or manager, it doesn't matter if I'm doing fine and everybody else is totally struggling, then you're just not going to be successful. So,
I
Okay.
love that. I love
yeah.
that.
Now we've come to the point in the show where it's time to flip the script. So I'm
Oh,
gonna let
Uh-oh.
you ask each one of us a question. Nothing is off
okay.
limit. So who do you
So
want to ask
fun.
the question to first?
Well, I think I'm going to direct the same question if that's okay to both of you.
Yeah.
I just finished, we were talking about books, and I just finished a book. I think it's called The Midnight Library. And it's about regrets and it's about different paths in your life. And it feels to me like both of you guys are just kind of living your best lives. I mean, I've known Manny forever, and you're both just powerhouses and seem to be doing like exactly what you should be doing and what you love to do, which is fantastic. But if there were an alternate universe and you could pick another book off the shelf that is a total left turn, and you are doing something that has nothing to do with what your current life is, what it looks like now. What is that other life? Where did you land? What are you doing in that alternate space?
Ooh.
Okay, so we have what's it called in Stranger Things, like the upside down world? What's it called in Stranger
Yeah,
Things? The upside down
in
world.
Stranger Things, yeah, the upside down. What are you doing in the upside down? Hopefully not
Okay.
running from that scary, whatever that thing
Yeah,
is called. Yeah.
yes. I think I can try to answer first, Manny, unless you have yours already
You
ready. Are you?
go. I've got to chew on this. You go.
Okay, so I'll go. Wow. I would say maybe in another alternate universe, what keeps coming to my mind is I would be like a chef, like a really fancy chef, like cooking
Mm.
various dishes and like having a restaurant like New Orleans or whatever, like a chef living in New Orleans cooking for the people.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what
I
that's
can see
what's
it.
coming to mind. Yeah, yeah.
A chef cooking for the people,
Eat
Amani.
for
I'd
people,
come eat
yeah,
there, definitely. I
yeah,
love New
I would
Orleans and I
too.
love eating
yeah,
things, so it's right up
yeah,
my alley.
yes, let's go. I mean, well, it goes upside down well.
Then
Man, good to see you.
you can make your lady killer crab cakes, Amani, all the
Yes,
Ooh.
time in
yes,
your restaurant.
the secret weapon, yes. Chosen, chosen. Not the sweet potato pie.
Um, I don't know, I don't wanna say mine wouldn't be much different, but I have a really bad voice in general. I have polyps on my vocal cords. My voice always gets hoarse. But I love to sing and I love to
Mhm.
dance and I love a stage. And I think in an alternate life, like I never was in any plays or anything when I was a kid. I'm not sure why. Like I don't know why.
Yeah, it
But
seems
like
perfect for you.
my little sister was, and I loved going to see her, but I think I would do something in the theater. Like if my voice had no limitations, like if I actually had a better voice, like I would sing and dance and I'd be on stage in a theater. Not acting like on a TV or on in the movies, but like just like
Mhm.
Broadway or off Broadway or
Just
something.
performing.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
performing and not necessarily improv, but like
Mhm.
belting out tunes and clicking my heels together or something. Like I would love that if I could.
yeah.
I say that because I can't because I'm such a bad singer, but if I could, I would do that.
Okay, I
That's a good
like it.
question.
Yeah,
Fantastic, thanks.
great question. One B for me, I'd be a soap opera star. I'd be,
Oh,
Oh.
All My Children. I'd be like the person that comes in as the villain for like the first half of the year, and then
oh.
Dun,
eventually the
dun,
story
dun.
unfolds, and I'm like really like a hero and like wolf's clothing, and then have a long line, all that, and yeah, that's what I would do.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yes,
What
yes.
about you? Angela, what would you do? We never normally turn this around on the guest, but, like,
Oh, you're
what would be
flipping the
your
flip.
we're flipping
Yes,
the flip.
yes,
Yeah.
twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had this really interesting moment right after I graduated college where I still don't even know how I landed there, but I saw something for dance lessons. It was like ballroom dance lessons, and you went in every day for I don't even know how long, like a month or something like this. And I was working some job and I didn't really like it. And I went in and you did lessons every single day, learned the men's part, the women's part, and then they tested you at the end and they determined if they wanted to keep you on as staff and train you to be a dance instructor and maybe go to competitions and stuff like that. And so I went through this whole program and they said, we want to keep you on. And other life was happening at that point, and it was right when I was moving back to California from living in Tennessee. And so I didn't take that job and I moved to California and went on my way. But my alternate life, I think I'm doing some kind of like fun ballroom dance instruction and maybe competing or something. Maybe my younger
Ooh.
self was competing. Maybe now I'm just standing there instructing or something. I don't
You like it. You
That's
like it.
great.
That's a
know.
good one.
But I love
Great.
dancing, so it seems like it
Okay.
would be a really fun life.
I love
My
that.
final question is I want to set it up and give you some context, but even though I'm just getting to know you, I can
Mhm.
tell that you're a very courageous person. Like you took a
Oh,
leap of
thank you.
faith and left to go with your boyfriend, which turned to your husband, to the forest. You've left you left like a corporate job. That's an amazing amount of courage for someone to leave a corporate job to start your own business is very courageous. So my final question is, how did you get to become so courageous, and how do you continue to grow your courage muscle?
Ooh,
Woo!
snap,
Woo!
Amani.
Saved the big one for the end. Jeez.
I love it.
That's interesting because I don't think of myself as courageous. I think of myself as just kind of a pretty normal person who makes
Mhm.
choices and
Nope, not normal.
not normal, not normal.
Not normal.
Gosh, let's see. I mean, I think sports really has affected that a lot. I mean, you have to do a lot of things you're really uncomfortable with physically and push yourself. And I've always enjoyed pushing myself and challenging myself. And so I don't do it on a regular basis. I'm not a daredevil. I'm not somebody who lives like a wild and crazy life, but every once in a while I enjoy really just going like, let's just see where this takes us and let's try something really different. And I enjoy that change. I enjoy that process. And I think as far as like keeping my courage muscle up, um, I think for me, it's more about thinking of things as like as choices, and not being scared to just make a choice. And that doesn't have to be the end. That
Mhm.
choice is not the final choice. So if something seems scary and you don't know if you should take that job or not take that job or move to that house or whatever, there's nothing says that that has to be the final choice. It doesn't work. Okay, it
Mhm.
didn't work. Let's make a different choice now, and we'll
Mm.
we'll we'll do something different. But I tried it, and I think we get stuck, for me anyways, where I get stuck is thinking like, oh, I do this and then it's wrong, and then what? Well, then we make another choice.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
keep on going and you keep living, and it's a little easier to be courageous when you think past that and you just think like, I'm a capable grown adult, and if I make a wrong choice, I will follow that up with a better choice, and
Mm.
we'll go from there.
Amen. Oh,
And
so
learn
well
from it.
said.
Yeah. That's so well said. I
So
agree.
well
Good
said.
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, thanks.
Uh, courage muscle. Amani, I'm gonna
Courage
hashtag courage
muscle.
muscle now. That's
Do
good.
it. Do it. I'm giving you permission.
I love it. I'm gonna steal that. Okay, so
Mhm.
I have a question, Angela. For
Okay.
those directors of at the hotels, those
Mhm.
directors of sales and marketing that are listening, what's one
Mhm.
piece of advice you have for them? Like they're about to change their
Mm.
brochures, they're about to go through a renovation. Like,
Oh,
what is
okay.
one piece of advice you have, whether they're about to change their brochure or they're about to do a renovation or about to open a hotel? Like one piece of
Mm.
advice for the decision makers who are uh, re-entering this space. And I don't know about you, Amani, but like when I was on the
Oh boy.
hotel, we had those brochures forever,
Yeah.
and it's a daunting task. So I'm just curious what
Mhm.
like one piece of advice you have for them is.
Let's see. I think my one piece of advice would be, I mean, most of the time when I'm dealing with people like this, you're trying to create some kind of communication piece, right? Not losing sight of the communication, not trying to over communicate. I think a lot of people get stuck, whether it's a website or a brochure or a logo or whatever. You're trying to get everything that you know about this new baby that you love so much and you want launched out into the world. You're trying to get it all into one piece, and you just can't. And you don't have to do that in order to get people interested and to get them excited. You want to get them excited enough that they're going to reach out to you, and then you can tell them all those millions of things that you know about it and continue to sell the thing. But if you try to get it all into the piece that you're putting out there, it's going to be congested, it's going to be clogged, it's not going to be clear. And you want to give them just enough to get excited and to get them talking to you about it. And to remember, if you can just boil down, like, what is the most important message? Not the most important 18 messages, the most important message. And then let's focus on that and let's communicate that. That's it.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, I'm gonna add to this. Sorry, one more thing, Amani.
Okay.
Because Amani and I send out a lot of proposals too. We send out a
Mhm.
lot of
Oh, yeah.
proposals. So is it the same thing? Is that the same advice you have for people sending out proposals too? Or no, is it a
Are you
different? Because
talking about
there's a
like
lot of
proposal
information.
responses? Like response for like people have sent out a proposal and you're responding to it?
Yeah, like they've sent us an RFP and like we're
Okay.
telling them everything we do and pricing. We hope they make a decision based on the
Right, right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, there's a couple different things that play there. So a lot of times RFPs are sent and they're very specific about what they want in the responses. So
Mhm.
that's the first and foremost thing to do is you have to really thoroughly read those RFPs. And if it tells you we want these things in it, put those things in it. And if it tells you keep it to 10 pages, keep it to 10 pages. Do not give them 25 pages. Boil it down and give them what they're asking for. And then, yeah, keeping it as clear and concise as possible and not putting every piece of work experience you've ever had. Give them the most applicable ones, the best ones. They don't want to read more than they have to. Nobody wants to read more than they have to read. It's just not like nobody's doing that for fun. Nobody's reading RFP responses for fun and enjoyment. They're trying to pick the best person. So boil it down, give them the best, the most applicable.
Yeah.
Good. Good advice.
How can we best support you? Where should people find all your work? Like, what's the, how can we continue to introduce people to you and support you the best?
Oh, people can reach out to me. My phone number, my email. I have a portfolio site if you want to get a glimpse at a couple of my projects. My Some of the real estate work on there. I don't put most recent projects usually on there because I'm trying to keep things. I try not to put current things that are out in market out there because there's a lot of control. People want to control who gets that
Mhm.
information and who doesn't. But there's so much work up there that should give you an idea of what I can do. And if you don't know if I can do something, ask me. I will be very honest and I will tell you I can take that on. It's not my wheelhouse. But I'm always happy to just talk to somebody about a project that they have rolling around in their minds and they want to know if it's something that we can execute. I would love to do that. So, yeah, phone, email, website. There's contact on my website,
I love that.
anything.
And for the people that are listening, the people that aren't watching but are listening, what is your website?
Oh, my website is Angela J. Let's see. I'm just going to double check because it's a portfolio site. So I want to make
Mhm.
sure that I give
Oh,
you the correct
because the
spelling
link you're
and
sharing is
everything.
like Angela Angela
Yes.
J Graphics.
Angela J Graphics dot myportfolio.com.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All
Gotcha.
right.
That's where the magic is.
That's all
That's
the
where the magic is. Yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming to the show, telling us your story, giving us some great advice, giving us some office advice too. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for having me. This was so fun. My first ever podcast, first
Right.
ever interview. So
Ah,
thanks for making it so
We
fun and
we
going so
wouldn't have
fast.
even known. We wouldn't have even known if you didn't tell us. So you're a veteran already.
Oh,
So
you
thank you.
yeah.
crushed it. You crushed it.
Thanks, friend.
So we'll put you back in the green room. We'll be right back with you, and then we'll come back
Okay.
here to Mandy and myself.
Thanks for being on,
Mandy,
Angela.
yeah, thank you. Oh, we'll give you a round of applause too. Hold on, there's a round
Oh,
of applause there.
oh yay. Jazz hands. Jazz hands.
Mandy, great show again. Next week, what do we have to look forward to?
We have some interesting ladies. We have Courtney and Morgan King, who are the co-founders of a sexual women's health app. And there was an article about them in San Diego Magazine recently. And I reached out to them because I thought the information that they were sharing is really important. And the app is called Orchid. And they said yes. And they're sisters. They've created something awesome and they actually help save lives. And we're going to interview them next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
please remember to follow our Adventure in Business Live LinkedIn page, trying to get it up to 150 so then we can broadcast on that page. So I'm going to put a link to that in the chat too. And yes, just great show. Thank you, Angela, for being here. Let me make sure I put the link in the chat there. Hold on.
And it'll be in the show
And
notes too. The link will
yeah,
be in the show notes. If you're listening on the podcast, go click and follow and don't forget about us on Instagram and comment, talk about your favorite guests, all that good stuff.
yes, awesome. Great show, Mandy. We'll see you and everyone next week. Have a fun week, and hopefully we'll have some more fun stories to share next week.
Always fun stories. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.